guess this touches a bit on the next topic, but I remember back when I first was submitting papers and for my thesis, when someone questioned my work, like a reviewer came back and said something, I always wanted to actually rebut. I wanted to be like, no, you're wrong. I have thoroughly thought about this issue and this is blah, blah, blah. And I remember my postdoc supervisor was like, don't do that. You have to be like, hey, thank you for this comment and we've made this like change or whatever sort of thing. I think, just talking about, responding to reviewer comments and that, at the beginning I didn't want to make any changes. But I think later on, you just have to I'm just making the bare minimum changes. I will always try to address it somehow. Like, even if they're completely wrong, you can just be like, oh, thank you for this comment. We have thought about this. We've added this one line to our limitation section or something. As long as you address it, usually that's good enough for a journal.
Yeah. I didn't know there's this trick that you can still just change a little bit or just add one sentence saying that, I'm like, because of that, so we didn't go into that. Like, you can actually bypass the whole thing of trying to change everything. Yeah, so I didn't know that strategy, but basically you just have to respond to every comment and then seemingly that you're agreeing with the comments. And I think reviewers will be happy enough to see that.
I've sort of found that when I'm a reviewer now, because sometimes, so I think of it from a human perspective, right? So they spent all this time going through one article, and this is something we'll touch on in the later episode, but they didn't get paid for this. This is all on their own time, so they're trying to do this as quickly as they can. And then, so when it comes back, most of the times they don't even look at it. They'll just be like, oh, it looks like on the surface you've addressed this, that's fine, that's good enough for me, kind of thing. Or sometimes it doesn't even go back to reviews, just the editor, as long as they see you've addressed it, then it's good enough, kind of thing. Because I remember I used to agonize over it. And then, because I used to get tons of comments. Sometimes I still do. But I just like spend hours and hours on it. And sometimes I didn't need to do that. I think, you just learn over time that no matter how good you are, you'll always get comments. Someone was always going to. Exactly. I think my way of dealing with it, because I used to be a perfectionist, but I'm not anymore. Because I know I'm always going to get comments, I just submit something that's good enough. It's not perfect. Because your definition of perfect is going to be different from someone else's definition of perfect. So I just put in something that I'm like, this is like the bare bones or bare minimum of what's enough. And because I know they're going to have things that they want me to change. And so that just like saves you time and you're also less attached because you spent less time on it and you know it's not perfect. So it's my little tip of dealing with comments.
How about you, Dr. Y? Any tips on how to respond to reviewers or supervisors' comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dr. X talks about it before, but for me, I go robot mode. So I take the emotion out of it and I constantly remind myself to take the emotion out of it. So, because criticism, right, no matter how constructive it is, it's never easy to take. So I remember guys probably learned in undergraduate psychology that humans can take like one negative interaction for 5 or 6 positive ones to maintain a state of peace or whatever. But like you're just opening a document that's full of criticisms and theories. It's not like your uni assignments. Like there's not going to be any, this is a good point, great work. Like it's like you just get a massive list basically of things that need to be changed. And the way people write can be really blunt and they so easily pull apart things that you've put a lot of time and effort in. And you're like, well, especially when they're like, oh, your sample size isn't enough or something like that. And you're like, well, I've got no choice, bro. Like, it's already done now. Like, it's easy for them to say they weren't part of that agonizing research process. So it can be hard, really, not to have an emotional reaction to the comments when you're reading them. And just remember that they're not saying this is bad and worthless. Like, I always try to get myself into this state, like a good state to respond to comments. So usually when I get the email and it pops up on my phone, I'll open it and I'll scan it just for the overall decision. And then I don't read the actual comments. Like I wait and I schedule a time to get into that response zone. And I also cut it up into little manageable pieces. So I'm like, okay, I'll just respond to 3 comments today and then tick that off my list. And then it feels much more manageable. Like, it sounds funny, but if I'm PMSing I'm not gonna freaking deal with comments. I'm not gonna open it. That emotional roller coaster, I'm not ready for.
Yeah, I remember what that was one of the tips that someone else gave. It's like when you are ready for reviewer comments, you gotta pour yourself a glass of wine first. Open the comment, scan them, and then close it. Drink your glass of wine, and then leave, and then come back to it tomorrow.
You need something to soften the blow. But definitely, it gets easier.
Yeah.
Once you've sat on both sides of the fence, like
Yeah,
being
that's
a
true.
reviewer as well, you understand where people are coming from as well. So